Welcome to another podcast episode of the Bros Bookshelf with your host, Lennon Givens. I'm joined with my better half, my editor in chief, my live-in partner and friend.
Live-in partner sounds interesting.
My wife, Dr. Teresa Givens.
Hello.
Hey, then I'm joined with my line brother, the Deuce Dog, Donovan Snipe.
What's going on, everyone?
Hey, and we also have the smooth, silky baritone voice of Dr. Harvey Hinton III. And then we also have in joining with us my other line brother, the 15 off the fall 2001 line, Mr. Stephen Gilliam. Give it up.
What's up, y'all?
All right. So this week in this podcast episode, we're going to be covering Miss Octavia Butler's parable follow-up book from Parable of the Sower. It was supposed to be a trilogy, but it ended up as just a follow-up sequel to Parable of the Sower.
I did not know that.
Yes. Parable of the Talents.
You got something on me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Harvey.
Yeah,
Why you picked this book, dog?
well, we had a good time reading the first one, Parable of the Sower, and Donovan had jumped into the Parable of the Talents, and so I figured we'd go ahead and see what's going on with Earthseed, see if anything really took root, and so what happened with the characters. So Black History Month, so why not do some Black Afro futuristic stuff and keep it fun and funky.
Man, I love this book.
Mm.
At first, I was like, yo, this book is long.
It's longer than a mug, yo, for real. Trilogy?
Yes.
I'm good. My fault, Octavia Butler. God bless your soul, but I'm good on a trilogy.
Oh no, I think
Well,
I
I
needed a
don't-
third one.
You think so,
I don't
Donovan?
think she left room for a third one.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely, she left the third one because they went to
The
outer
door
space.
wide
That's when
open.
that's when it started, and that's how Earthspeed is eventually supposed to. It's supposed to be this thing that spreads throughout the universe. So, yeah,
The
they could have.
destiny.
Yeah,
I guess, from whose perspective would the third book be?
Marco's son.
Yeah,
The daughter, the sellout daughter.
Yeah.
the sellout
Yeah,
daughter.
Marco couldn't have a son.
They got all type of technology in the future. What you talking about?
Yes, they did, because remember they took
Yeah.
embryos and
Yes, they
human embryos to space with them. But I guess with that though, I mean, because she actually was the main character, kind of narrator of this book, because everything that was written from her perspective didn't really have the introductions that her mom and her uncle did. But so if the first book was completely Lauren, then the second book is Larkin, then the third book would have to be somebody else.
It could be Larkin and then Larkin's daughter or son to continue the legacy.
Or Larkin's coming to realizing how messed up of a sellout she is. Maybe she had her disappear. What's that movie with Mahalia Jackson? The woman was playing white. What's that movie?
Imitation of Life.
Imitation of Life.
Imitation of Life.
Yeah,
Imitation
maybe,
of Life.
maybe she have a moment like that and be like, "Damn, I missed my mom. I messed that up." I don't know.
That's interesting that y'all are calling Larkin the
Yeah,
sellout.
she horrible,
Okay.
man. I'm sorry.
She said
bro.
her name is not
Well, I
Larkin.
mean-
She prefers Asha or something, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
Yes,
right.
Asha.
Asha Very.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to Lenny's point, I think, the book, to me, it kind of started, I was excited to get into it, then it hit a wall, and then it's like, okay.
It started out on a wall. It was like, and then we planted spinach. And then after the spinach, we got pumpkins. And then after pumpkins, we planted some trees and prayed. You're like, okay.
Stop it, Steve.
Yeah.
Hey, before
Steve,
we
tell
go
it,
any
dog. That's how it
further,
was. That's exactly how it
This is
was.
true.
before we go any further, I want to give the listeners and the viewers a kind of a summary of the book. So once we start talking about the book, you guys won't feel left out. So Parable of the Talents is a continuation from Parable of the Sower, where it's told in from two perspectives in Parable of the Talents. One perspective is from the main character, Lauren Olamina.
Mhm.
Then you have another perspective from her daughter, who is Larkin Olamina.
Who
Now,
becomes Asha?
who later becomes Asha Alexandria?
Asha
Very.
Very.
Berry.
Asha Very. She didn't want to use the Alexandria name.
Right.
So to give a little context in what we're talking about, Lauren grows up. She started to develop her um, what you
Earth
call it? What you
seed
call it?
philosophy.
Religion, earth
Religion,
seed,
lifestyle,
her
philosophy,
her philosophy on life,
culture, all
culture.
of that.
Lauren. We're
Yes.
talking about Lauren. Okay.
Lauren, yeah.
We're talking about Lauren. Then um, it was during a time where America was changing, but America was trying to hold on to its old values, and
They had a
they
they had a
elected
virus
a
or some shit too,
president.
didn't they?
Say again.
They was coming off a virus and just all kinds of
Right,
apocalyptic type disruption and
It's
right. It's a
basically 6
future. It's
months
a
ago.
futuristic story
It was
written in
6 months ago.
1998.
yeah, dealing with
And the president, the guy who was running for president, Gerald, he ran under the slogan "Make America Great Again," and he was this Southern Baptist guy who was purveying like the Christian
Fire and Brimstone.
fire and
damn.
Yeah.
brimstone,
Can't
right?
even say can't make this shit up no more, Steve.
White Christian terrorist.
Right. So they had this terrorist group called the Crusaders, and they would come and grab people and put them in slaves and put them in these kind of re-education camps. And
Collars.
Lauren went to a re-education camp, and in the process, they took her daughter away. They took her daughter, they put her into another camp as she was a baby, and then they put her and they made her get adopted, foster home. Teresa, don't look at me like that. And a foster home. So the book is Lauren is looking for her daughter, and years go by, and she finally finds her daughter, and her daughter don't know her mother.
The end.
But then there's a lot of things in between that. So that's what we're talking about. It's told from the perspective of her daughter reading her mother's journal and then her mother's journal. So it's told from two different perspectives.
Okay.
So, why did I give too much?
I don't know.
Oh,
I mean, it can always be
this-
edited out.
well, I know we're going to get into it, but you know, those camps kind of reminded me of those Native American boarding schools.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
remember during the Native American boarding schools? I
Mhm.
think it was from 1860s to the late 70s, where they would try to reassimilate the Native Americans
Mm-hmm.
and take them to school and re-educate them into the American culture.
Mm-hmm.
They said you can kill the Indian, but not the man. And so those camps was kind of a parallel to that
Right.
to me. And you know, and I thought like she was taking a lot of things that actually happened in America and actually happened in our history and incorporating them in her story.
True.
And her story was kind of a reflection of her because how she wrote, how Lauren Olamina looked, how she can look like a man. And
Stop, dog. Stop, dog. Stop.
I was
Octavia Butler
wondering where
fans
this
have
was going, and then
this
I
I
mean-
concept
realized
right.
that I was by myself. So I just
Stop.
was like, okay.
I wasn't wondering at all. I knew which street we were going down. I heard the GPS talking
Man.
loudest.
come on now. Come on now. She does look like
mean-
Bookman.
No, she don't.
And we're at it again.
Okay.
So
The
She
famed
doesn't even know
feminist
what I'm saying.
Afrofuturist.
I'll say that offline.
Yeah.
I mean,
What'd you
dog,
say,
but
Steve?
No, I said you could edit out from 9:30 to 10:07.
Now we're not doing a lot of editing now since we on YouTube. Now, what you was about to say, Harvey?
I mean, to the storyline, that's a strength of hers to be able to dress like a man. Now, in the first story, she was full of salt and pepper. She was loving getting humping all over the place in the first story.
Okay, that's not true either, but
She was
okay,
a
let's
sheriff.
not do this again.
Come on, Teresa. In the second story, I mean, it's not even cool no more to talk about and think about get down because it's weird now. But that's one of her protective strategies is to look
Yes.
like a man,
And it
because
was
it
in the
works.
last book as well. Yes, so she
Yeah.
did find that it was safer for her to travel as a man, which it is still safer to travel as a man.
Mm-hmm.
A white man, but still a man.
Mm-hmm.
You
She
know,
couldn't do that.
Definitely.
you know, one of another thing that I find fascinating was how deeply profound and well thought out those verses in Earthseed were in the Book of the Living. And just to think that she came up with that out of her imagination.
Are
And
we talking about the character?
the character, the
Okay.
author, and how the author wrote that.
Mm.
And it looks like it could pass for something that has been developed over years.
It was.
I mean,
It
it
has
was. Yeah, it was.
No,
it's
that
built
was
off of
the
observed
story.
truths.
Right. That's why I'm asking you.
No,
You
what
said
I'm saying
you
is
said the character and the author
the author wrote those verses
based
in the
on
book
truths that are
that's
for
out of
real.
her imagination.
They're real.
Mm. She put them for
Well,
real.
that's what she said about the Earth seed, right, Teresa? She said, "I didn't discover it. I just
Yes,
wrote it
I
because it
mean,
was true."
thank you. Yes, she talked about
Observation, Doc.
these are observations and things that she brought from other religions, from physics, just regular real earth stuff.
Yeah.
Earth
Mhm.
seed.
I thought it was I thought it was deep.
Oh,
Did anybody else think those
Dog, I'm Earthseed
those
out,
verses were
dog.
very prophetic?
I thought they were. I thought for me they were, but the bigger impact was the fact that all the bad shit happens in the 2020s, and it's pretty much all the stuff that's actually happening in the 2020s. She
right.
talked about the schools are,
VR.
yeah, the schools are for the rich people now, and private education is terrible, and they just put you in debt forever. And
Mhm.
companies owning people in their camps and all that stuff. It's like it's pretty much like 2 to 3 years from
Spot on.
now. It's pretty much how it's going to be.
Yeah.
The Trump demagogue character is pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much Trump. But what's the guy's name? Gerald in his Crusaders.
Jared.
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 And he had
Jared.
one turn like Trump.
Only got one turn, yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, one turn. But I mean, he has the
His
extreme.
Well,
damage
he
was
drank
done.
himself to death. We could only hope.
Mm.
As the character says, Teresa, there will always be a demagogue. Always be a
Always.
demagogue.
That was an interesting point.
I thought it was cool how she was just like she had a really good examination of our social structures, and the whole book she's like kind of talking about manipulating people and getting them onto Earthseed, and she really kind of dissects like what appeals to people and why people act the way they do on a societal level, and I thought it was really cool.
And it took Lynn towards the end to call her out on her manipulation. She's like, I see what you're doing.
Well, actually, it was Lynn to try to refine her manipulation and try to critique it and tell her she needs to do more manipulating and disguising it as something else so it can be more palatable for people to digest it. She said you need to be a little bit more like Jared if you
Right.
want people to take this in.
Yeah. I didn't see it like how you described it in the beginning, but your last statement is true.
Correct.
That was a compliment.
I mean, you said
And you-
Lynn. I thought by the time I got to Lynn, it's a lot of characters in this book. And I guess
it was
that
a lot of
makes
characters.
sense. Or is that,
Mhm.
it was a lot of keeping up with folks. Like, who is this person again?
Right.
And who-
And trying to hold on to the characters from the first book. So
Right.
now you're trying to remember all of the original Earthseed families and then the new Earthseed families and then the people who showed up when they took over Acorn and then
Mhm.
it was
And the people
That was
after
a cool
Acorn.
scene. I mean, the battle scene of them losing the acorn was cool. And
it was
Tragic.
I think it's
Yeah.
interesting, Steve, to the point of like the parallels of the world. They still had like quote unquote advances in technology when all this fuckery and other bad things are happening to how people are being treated. The technology seems to, becoming more advanced. I think we see that too.
Man, those
Yeah, the
collars were
technology kind of
horrifying.
eclipses
Yes.
The collars are
society.
wicked, yo. They leave no mark.
Right.
That's a lie, right? They leave no
Even
permanent damage. All that was lies. All that
there
was
was
lies.
Nothing
a
physical.
contradicting statement one time when they were saying that it doesn't leave a scar, it doesn't leave permanent damage. But then I guess it wasn't permanent because Allie did come back around. But it seemed like they alluded to the fact that the collar sometimes did make people lose their memory.
Mm-hmm.
Or
And
kill people.
that, yeah. So I was like, did she make a mistake there? Because I also know, but this was probably a mistake in narration. But Asha said her name. She said her name was Asha. Then she said Aisha later. But that was probably just on the
Oh,
fact of
really?
the.
Yeah, and speaking of narration, I thought the narration was really good, but there was times during the Audible book where the author would take a spit swallow. And
Oh my gosh, you noticed that?
that was
Okay.
so annoying to me.
I didn't even notice that. I thought you were going to talk about
Oh.
how they kind of edited quickly in. Like sometimes they
Yes,
weren't
when they
even
go right to,
finished.
like, chapter
Right.
two,
Listen,
chapter two.
Yeah.
I was listening to a story and I just turned the music. I turned it down for a second and turned it back up, and I heard like a totally different voice. I didn't know where the voice came
Exactly.
from. And I called Lenny like, dog, like what just happened, man? My
What just-
audio fucked up. Like it's a man
Yeah.
talking now,
It's
and
a
he's like,
man talking.
it's somebody else, and it was another story. I'm like, bro, I'm confused. So yeah,
No, that was
I
Marcos.
think
that was Marcos.
you sure it was it's Marcus.
His name was Marcus.
Marcos.
He changed it to Marcos.
But I thought it was the voice of Ben
it was
Coley.
Ben Coley. It was Ben
Ben
Coley's voice at the
Coley. Yeah,
beginning.
Ben Coley talked too. Yes,
Yeah.
he did. And that was odd. Yes, when Ben Coley started to talk.
That was
Yeah,
the
but-
beginning of the book. That was just
Yeah.
like, what?
So if y'all
he's
ever
using the same dates, he's using the same prefaces of what's happening, and this was
Yeah.
weird.
That was my dude.
Ben Coley,
Yes, Ben Coley was my dude.
if you ever listened to that Michelle Obama's book Becoming,
Mm-hmm.
and Michelle, no, I love that book. And and Michelle narrated that book, and the lady from this book sound like Michelle Obama, but she was killing me with the spit swallow.
Okay.
And I was like,
with the
could you
spit
do a better
swallowing.
job in editing that part out?
I understand.
She
but
was like talking this, she dropped.
now it was some other things
I was
though.
like, yo.
That was a dramatic effect, though.
It was, yeah, dramatic. effect.
Okay.
But yeah, it was something a little bit different about this book and the way it was read that was different, because I was in love. We said this. I think we all gave it a 10 last time, but
Parable of the Sower?
yes, Parable of the Sower was extremely good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Parable of the Talents, not so much.
Man, let me ask you something.
Ask away.
Was there any part in this book that y'all felt like that grabbed you, that made you like emotional?
No.
Because there was a few parts in this book that I kind of got emotional.
Yeah.
The part when the young girl snitched on the two girls.
Oh yeah,
for,
that was messed up.
For making love to each other, and they beat.
Did you have to say it like that?
I'm
just, I'm a little sensitive to the way, because I'm sure that eventually this whole group is gonna go that way. No, go.
No. Tell me how you would have said it.
I don't know.
And then
I just would have said,
tell me how you would have
when
said
she told about the indiscretions of the couple. Allie and
They were being discreet, Teresa. They were out of each other.
They were
under
making
cover.
love
It
in a
was
room
very
full of people. I mean, I know that y'all used to that, but
Ooh.
I don't make love
Yeah.
in a bunch of people. I only have sex with
Never.
I only
Never.
fucking
No. And y'all think that's
I'm a
funny too,
hoe.
but wait until your children come home and start saying meat and see how you like it.
But
These
anyway,
kids can have virtual sex by
when
the end.
those girls got beat, and I was thinking about how the system can break you to make you turn on your own kind.
Oh yeah.
But you still don't win, because imagine living in a world lonely and nobody likes you.
Are we talking about the Michelle Obama book
right
still?
now?
No, we're talking about this book where the two girls, They snitched on Allie,
Allie and
and then they beat her. Whatever the other girl,
I
until she died
forgot. Yes, she died.
in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then they praised those two girls and made them. They put them in the kitchen.
Yes, and they were
Yeah,
horrible.
that's your promotion. Going to the kitchen.
Meritorious munition.
Well, that's where you got to eat as much as possible. That's Lauren told you that.
Yeah, they didn't kill them.
No, they disappeared though after the natural disaster defeated the technology,
right?
And they escaped. They didn't find the girls, right? They didn't know where the girls were.
No, they
They
didn't.
still had the collars. Yeah.
I mean,
They
the
weren't
whole
gonna take their
college,
collar.
that whole college experience is just, these remote control devices that somebody could just. You ever seen those little clips? And I hate the damn Teresa. You're gonna get me on this. When the dude be sticking the little vibrator in the woman, and he be playing with it in public. Y'all seen them clips?
No, where do you see these things?
Teresa,
Harvey has a different feed than you do.
Hey, listen, man.
I know. I've seen the difference between my feed and Lenny's feed.
I look at World Star.
Totally different.
I look at World Star every day. You know what I'm saying? So these guys be doing these date nights where they go out with their ladies and they're holding in the remote control vibrators and just but just the concept of somebody having that level of power over you,
right?
It was very emotional. That was very emotional, and just that whole experience of her being collared, that was deep.
And I also like how she wrote into the book, because this book seems so real. Sometimes you have to take yourself out of it and just think this came out of somebody's imagination.
Not completely.
So,
well, the cars, man, that the way the car could detect
the maggot.
The maggot was able to detect life, and it was able to
infrared
technology and all that kind of stuff, man.
It can tell who was the enemy and who was the foe. The enemy or the ally.
Just the idea of all of that it's I don't know, man. It's fascinating. They got a show on Netflix. I hate to use Big Bug as the contrast to this world that we're talking about now, but it's looking at how AI can kind of run amok in a futuristic society. I haven't finished it, but it's like I'll watch it at first and it gets funny, then it just gets spooky. And I can't take it. It's just frightening to know that technology can have that power over you.
What I was going to say is I like how in the book she was talking about how at this Christian camp they were given this sermon that they had to sit for and listen to, and the man was condemning, masturbation, premarital sex,
the stuff that's in the Bible,
homosexuality,
the stuff that's in the Bible.
Yeah, he was preaching from the Bible. He was preaching from the Bible.
Except for rape. He did. He talks about pedophilia, all these things, except for rape, because they didn't want to condemn themselves.
Is rape in the Bible?
Do they talk about rape in the Bible?
Yeah,
that's a great question.
Talk about everything else.
I don't know if they do. I just don't know if they do. I don't know if the concept is
story of Sodom and Gomorrah was about a rape. The angels
was
trying to rape.
No, they were trying to have consensual sex with them angels.
Oh, it wasn't the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. You're talking about the story where the angels was beating on the door, do, and they wanted to rape the man.
Yeah, they wanted to rape the man.
And the man got scared and he pushed his wife out there, and they raped his wife.
Daughters,
there you go.
Daughters.
Yeah, they raped his daughter.
Raped his daughters. There you go.
Yeah, because they wanted him. He was like, no. You cannot have me.
Use this hole.
And you can't have my wife neither. Y'all look too big. They said the men were like 9 feet, and he threw his daughters out.
That's horrible.
And I remember that
I'm
story.
glad I went to the right church.
That story in Sunday school. And
I went to the right church.
For real?
It's in the Bible.
But it's the right church. It's the Bible.
Hey,
no.
But this
but
is
the minister.
Baby, hold on.
I understand
Explain that story
that.
to me. Make it make sense.
No, this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, whatever church you go to, the pastor, reverend, whatever you call them, they guide the service. So they think about what it is that they're going to preach.
They cherry pick the Bible.
This is true. And I am glad that I went to a good cherry picker, because again, I've been telling you ever since I met you, the stories that you tell me that you learned at your church,
I didn't learn it at the church. I learned because I read the Bible.
Oh, okay, you just went on and just
Yeah, I read the
went to
Bible.
reading it. Okay,
Let me ask you something.
ask away.
He read it. You have to death this shit.
Ask away.
Earthseed, chapter 2.
Let me
It better be good too.
let me ask you this.
Sure.
Because that story is in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and because the story of Solomon, Gomorrah, and Lot,
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and
yes.
Gomorrah,
Mhm.
and the end of the story is kind of left out in the sermons. But
Okay.
we know the end of the story, correct? Do you believe that the Bible is literal? And that's just
I
not
do
for
not.
you.
And I'm just saying,
And
and I've
that's for
told you this
that's for
before, so
all
this is for
Christians
other
who
people
are
because you
watching this. Do
already
you
know.
really believe that the Bible, everything happened in the Bible literally? Or is
I mean,
it
they may or they may
metaphor?
not, but it's whatever you believe. It's not about
Right.
me or you or them. It's your own personal interpretation of whatever. Just like it's my own, interpretation of what you may do. You don't think that what you're doing may be interpreted the way that I do. So everyone interprets a story in a different way. So we did a whole round the bush to say that we still don't know whether rape is talked about in the Bible as far as
No,
what
we
the
don't.
punishment is for it.
But that also kind of gives me insight on Octavia Butler's mindset and how she sees the world, and how she penned this up in this book. There was also another parallel that she used in this book. It was kind of like metaphorically, and I'm about to go there, so y'all kind of
Follow.
follow me. Don't interrupt me. Kind of follow me. And this is what actually happens in the creation of nations and dominance to maintain control. Lauren Orlamina was kind of synonymous with Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ spread a universal message of love for thyself and love for thy neighbors, right? But he ran into opposition from the Roman Empire. Martin Luther King, same thing. Love thyself, love thy neighbors, a whole universal message. But he ran into opposition from the white supremacists. In this book, Lauren Olamina was spreading a message through Earthseed of love and love thyself and love thy neighbor, but she ran through opposition from the Crusaders. In history, in reality, the Roman Empire turned into the Roman Catholic Church. The white supremacists turned into the Southern evangelicals for Martin Luther King. And in this case, the Crusaders were the Christian Americans, the CA, right? So it seemed like during the time why these prophets were on earth, they were met with resistance, and they were criticized, and they didn't accept their message. But as soon as they left, they cherry picked their message and took it and used it to try to push their message and their agenda of dominance and control. You understand? Anybody following me?
Because you
They-
told
they
us
use
to
it
be
as a-
quiet.
Ooh, yeah. I thought that was very thoughtful, dog. You took your time with that one, dog.
You did. You
Mhm.
did. You definitely took your time with that. You definitely did.
Right. Okay.
I hate y'all. I hate y'all.
All right.
Never again. Never again. But did you follow me though?
I mean, you made me cover my mouth and
Donovan
everything.
passed out during
Keep
that.
going, baby. You all right. You all
Like,
right.
what? Okay, so back to the
I
book.
mean, Christians do have a history of
Oh.
like going to people's countries and taking them and their stuff.
Right.
The whole Crusades was all
And
about let's go into some holy land.
she
and
wasn't
then
dead yet.
losing. So
She wasn't. No, but she was met with resistance.
Yes, but you said after they leave,
But
they're
it was.
gone and they check.
But
so
it was
she
the
wasn't.
end of the book was left that Earthseed did grow
Mhm.
and it did spread
Yeah.
and it became bigger
Mhm.
in what she envisioned
Before-
it to become.
No, it didn't
It-
become
it
bigger
spread-
than what she
It was
envisioned.
in.
That's
it
what
was in
she
the U.S.
envisioned.
It was in Brazil and it was
This
in Canada.
is what she envisioned. It didn't become bigger than what she envisioned. That's what she wanted. That's what
Okay,
she wanted
fair
to
enough.
see.
Hey,
Fair enough.
but now I'm thinking, to baby girl's point, did her mother give up on looking for her versus chasing after Earthseed?
No,
No,
Because that's how baby girl felt.
that
Baby
was her
girl felt like,
perception,
my uncle found
she
me.
could be wrong.
which was absolutely asinine. I thought that was the craziest thing. When she said that, kind of pissed me off,
She sucked.
actually.
She's terrible. My uncle found me. Yeah, because he's with the
Well,
kidnappers. That's
well,
what.
y'all,
Correct.
y'all ever seen this? Y'all ever seen that movie called
Exactly.
Stolen by? You ever seen that movie called Stolen by My Mother?
No.
That's one of them lifetimes somebody stole somebody out
Like,
It
what?
feel like it.
the
It feel like a Smith
maternity
Edward
award
story.
movies.
Yes,
And you
this
fell
lady
in love
stole.
with the person who
The
stole you.
lady stole this baby out of maternity ward, and she raised this child for 20 something years, and she was the only mother that this child knew.
Mhm.
But she grew up poor, and her mother was middle class, and her mother spent years looking for her. It
Right.
was based off a true story. And once she found her mother, the girl was like, "But this is my mother,"
Right, but
and
that's
it broke
still.
her.
But her Uncle Marcus did not raise her.
No, he didn't. But that kind of goes. I think what she did in this book, I think she was playing with the idea of how you can be programmed and brainwashed. Nature versus nurture.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
that's your
No, so
I
they
think
perspective.
she
they
experienced.
work
He didn't
together.
I think she
raise her, but they
experimented
did
with
make a
that.
choice
That's
to
not
be
even a real
together
thing.
after they met. You know,
What you say, Donovan?
I said that's not even a real thing. You can't have nature versus nurture. They always work in tandem with one another. That's a white form of thinking. You can't take something out of its natural environment and then expect to be able to study it how it normally is. Like if you're out of your natural environment, all of your behaviors are going to be unnatural. So it's always nature in conjunction with nurture. And you're gonna get what you get.
The whole ideology of the Christian America in this book is unnatural. It's a lie,
Correct.
and that's why they were trying to. They was trying to pervade his lie, and they was trying to go after what they call "quote unquote" heathens. That's why it was important for them to educate, send people to school, and reward them if you take on this ideology, because it was a lie.
Right.
But
It was
they
forced.
didn't exaggerate the Christian mindset, though. They just put it in like this. That has happened multiple times with
right?
Christianity
Right.
throughout
I
its
mean, the
history.
word
with
crusader
conquest.
is out of the
So,
history book.
yeah, like they didn't. They just. I think she did a really good job of presenting an alternate reality based on existing patterns and behavior. Right. So when you say she met resistance, I was kind of feeling you for that. I don't know, monologue you went through, the soliloquy. I was feeling you because she did meet resistance, like everyone else meets resistance, but it wasn't like just the institution. She had little, people that resisted her along the way, like interpersonally. And to me, that was most of the story. It was like her fighting a captor, or her fighting her brother, or her daughter, or anybody that she met along the way that was trying to rob her or something like that. She was always up against that. And that's, I feel like, par for the course for us. It's everyday shit.
I also enjoyed how she did write that nuance in relationships between her and her brother,
Oh,
and what Marcus was going through. I think Marcus was
Marcus said call him Marcos.
okay. Marcos. I believe Marcos was.
Marcos Duran.
Duran.
I
After the
believe
family that took
Marcos
him in.
Duran was dealing with an identity crisis,
Yes,
and he was dealing with. He
was
wanted to
getting
be
it.
accepted.
It was dealing with trauma from having to
he
walk the
was
track.
he was dealing with a
Yeah.
lot of things that he was not able to do. And, it was also brought into the story of Christianity and homosexuality. That was another thing that was kind of thrown in there. These two books had so much thrown into them. But
It's
I
so good.
think
I
I have to
recommend
say
everybody to read it.
that this one was a lot more predictable. I found myself reading this and knowing what was going to happen next. So I didn't enjoy the ride with this book as much as I enjoyed the last one. Just always had me like, oh my gosh, well, what are they going to do next? And how's it going to happen? And what's going to go on? This one was more like,
So did you know Marcos was going to
yes,
keep her daughter away from her?
yes.
What
Really?
What gave that away?
The way that he always responded with her. It threw me the time that he cried, I thought, he'll do the right thing. But now in retrospect, I see it was just tears of guilt. I mean, his
It's for
own
himself.
could
Yeah.
yeah, for himself. His own convictions left him to treat his sister just like she said. She was like, I could have left you in slavery. You can't even do me this. Like, you can't, you're my brother, and I saved you from slavery. But from the moment I saw how he behaved, the way he interacted with Ben Cole let me know that he was going to be a snake. I knew he was from that moment. I was like, this dude is going to
Was
cause
that when
problems.
he was allowed to preach
Well,
at,
before he
It
was
at
was
the
allowed
before
to
at
that. It was
preach,
Acorn?
before that.
before
Yeah.
he was allowed to preach, I could
Okay.
tell when he was talking to her and he was critical of her. I knew that that was going to be her nemesis. And then I decided I really didn't like it anymore because I don't like when families have problems like that. I was just like, wow, because this whole story from the beginning was built on her thinking he was dead and how she would have done anything for her family. And then for him to come back
Yeah. That
and
was
be
bad.
her enemy, the one
Slavish.
person to take her down, I was just
The
like, nah, I
whole
like that.
story in general though is about her losing her family though. Like she lost her family. Like her
Hmm.
daughter is not her daughter anymore. Like they found each other, they met, but it's like that's not her daughter. Like she said, don't even call me that name no more. Like
Yeah,
she
don't
doesn't
even
have a
call me that
family.
name anymore. And
So
as much
like,
time as they spent trying to name her, and she doesn't even know that.
hmm,
That's horrible, man.
But even still, she ended up being not as great as her mother, but she was above the fray.
Well, that's another thing, and that was
Nature
something else that
versus nurture. I know that you
that's
don't like
something
that,
else
Donovan.
that I thought about in this story because we're looking at poor people, people
Mhm.
who have lost everything, and in this, they came out on top,
Yes,
mhm.
not
Well, I mean,
together, but financially.
yes, because Marcos, he
Rich
was
on
the head
top
of
of
the
rich.
church.
Mhm.
Yes,
Marcos, rich on top of rich. His sister, rich on top of rich. And Asha, I mean, racks on racks on racks. So it's like, what? I mean,
yeah. What you gonna say, Harvey?
I mean, it's the seed they're sowing and the talents that they have, and Lauren's, I mean, Olamina's her whole drive to survive. She didn't have money, but she had a wealth of knowledge because she was free when she had Acorn, and then when she loses Acorn, she loses her daughter. I mean, she's on a whole nother, quest to get something that was taken from her. And she's a very driven woman, man. She's extremely smart. So like riches to her are not even, you know, about money. She don't even
right.
live
Because
for that.
she didn't even have a house. Remember?
Yeah,
That's
she
what
don't.
her
Yeah,
daughter was like, she doesn't even have a house.
I
But
Like,
mean,
if
her
you
her her
follow
her world had been
anybody that's
destroyed.
about the cause and they really live for the cause, they're not into money
we
like
understand that.
that.
But that's not the
No, yeah,
point.
yeah.
Right. The point is that they all became something well above what we saw in Parable of the Sower,
Absolutely.
walking on a dirt road looking for their next meal.
Like, that was a bad time they were living in Parallel of the Soil. And it's like, that was all chaos was all over the place. And then in this world, she had built the whole community. She had a sense of civility and she had peace until the CA folks that you're
Yeah,
talking
you
about
have
rolled up on
factions in
them.
this
Right.
one. Like,
You
things were
know,
starting to get organized. I guess it was like the question of this book is like, who's going to rule the world? It would it be this
Hmm.
factions of nature lovers and people who value logic and peace and reciprocity, or will it be these people who respect authority and power and total control?
and she talked about Donovan, this idea of when she was going against Jared, like even though she was had a opposing view to what Jared was talking about. Jared, she wasn't really on Jared's radar. You know what I'm saying? So she's like,
Right.
because she was insignificant enough to not matter, she was able to survive, irrespective of the influence she had with her writings, her books, and all that. Her teachings went beyond her, but she was okay with not really being known. It was kind of deep.
Was it Jared or was it a senator that mentioned Earthseed?
Jared was the senator, but she was, but not. The way they described it was that, they knew about it, but it wasn't like one of the major groups that they were concerned about.
Yeah, it was
Is
so
what they
small.
said in the
Yeah.
story, because there was a small group, but of course, it changed
Earthseed's destiny is to take its root among
amongst
the
the
stars.
stars. Yeah.
Y'all remember in 1996 that cult called Heaven's Gate?
No.
Yes.
When those people they dressed up in those uniforms.
1996?
1996.
Yeah, I was busy.
Don't do that. All right, it's 1996, and they dressed up in these uniforms, and they followed this guy, Marshall Apple,
Don't ask me.
whatever his name is.
Stop it.
The
You
guy
don't
with
know
the
that
white.
guy's
He kind of
name.
looks like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, yeah, he was a white dude, a bald head dude.
Yeah, right
Marshall
here.
Applewhite. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, they dressed up in these uniforms.
Okay.
They went and got this like poison out of Mexico, and if you mix it, you mix it with alcohol, you'll die a slow death, and it's committing suicide. And
Why
so,
would you want to die slow?
because they rested, and they all did like these. They recorded themselves. They were excited about leaving, and he
They
was
thought a
waiting on
comet
this
was
sign.
coming to take their
The comet.
the
The
spirit.
comet
I
was
think it was
coming to.
Hellbop.
Yeah, you remember that too. Yeah, and they came and they all laid together, and they all just died together because they thought they was elevating to the next level beyond their human self.
Maybe they did, and we don't know.
Maybe they did, Steve.
Possible.
I mean, because
You know
we're
what?
left with.
That's deep.
Which brings me to this segment in the podcast. This is the segment we have in this podcast called Lit Bars. And lit bars is any bar, quote, or any literary collection that's put together. Phrase.
Bars.
Any literary phrase that's put together in the book that jumped out to you. So, since you're talking, Steve, did you have any lit bars in the book that jumped out to you?
And then we planted pumpkin seeds, row by row.
Bars.
Teresa, did you have any?
Actually, because I'm such a sarcastic person, I kind of enjoyed when Asha / Larkin turned around and told that lady at the church, God is love, and love follows the law, or whatever she told them on page 315. I remember. I was like, let me remember that. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed her sarcasm, the way she snapped back.
What about you, Donovan?
I had it, but give me a second. I need to pull it up.
Harvey?
I give you one. Chapter 15, when Lauren tells her girl, she's like, God is change. Look after yourselves.
The reason why I segued into this one after the Heaven's Gate story, because the one that jumped out to me was when she said, there's nothing alien about nature. Nature is all that exists. It's the earth and it's all that's in it. It's the universe and it's all that's in it. It's God. Never at rest. It's you, me, us, them, struggling upstream or drifting down. I enjoyed that one.
Okay.
Yeah. There's nothing alien about nature.
Mine is it took a plague. It took a plague to make the people realize that things could change.
Yeah.
That's from the book.
Damn.
Wow. Steve.
What? All right, I got one. I like at the end when she said, what's the guy's name? Marcos stole my daughter completely, and I didn't even try to forgive him. After she talked about all, she's getting ready to die basically. And she's like, and I forgive this person, and this is lovely, and I'm so happy about this, and this, and fuck that brother. Fuck my brother. He's terrible. I appreciated that.
He was terrible.
Man, that kind of goes into how a child can be programmed to hate their own parents. And that hit home with me.
Okay, but let's not get lost.
She
because
said-
she didn't hate her mother because of that per se. She hated her mother, it seems, because she feels, her perception is that Earthseed was her mother's favorite child.
Right. She was
But
jealous
she
of
wasn't.
Earthseed.
She only thought that because she wasn't open-minded to know that
Okay, but
her
she's
mother
a child.
loved her and was
But
looking
she grew
for
up.
her.
She still ain't
Yeah, I
open
wasn't
minded.
expecting
she
that
wasn't.
either.
She wasn't open to the idea that Earthseed was something that was ongoing, but she was the number one. But she was gone.
I
mean, she's
understand
stealing
that.
porno magazines and stuff, and she's doing all kind of weird stuff as
Oh
a kid.
my
But then gonna be
gosh.
like her mama's
Like
a
mama, like
Oh,
daughter.
I feel you. That was whack,
Like
stop.
man. She was
mama,
so open minded
mama
to it
been
came to her mom.
fast. The
That was
daughter gonna
whack,
be
yo.
fast. Everybody is fast. Mama like old man.
Oh,
She like
This
old
line
man.
right here
God.
at the end of the book in the epilogue, where she was talking about her uncle and her mother was upset with her uncle. She said, "I went back home with him.
She was ready to give her uncle.
I was
that
angry
thing,
with
too.
him, but
She
even
was loving
angrier
uncle.
with her somehow. I loved him more than I ever loved anyone, no matter what he had done. And she was hurting him. I didn't know whether I could ever see him again. I didn't know whether I should. I didn't know whether I even wanted to."
Okay, so that just shows how conflicted
She didn't know if she
was.
wanted to see her mother again.
Right, because she is a person who just decided, just like what were we just talking about? And it was almost the same. And it was about, your perception of being abandoned. It's like you can't change someone's perception of being abandoned. We did it with the book last time, talking about
It ends with us?
yes, we talked about poor homeless boy, Akins, whatever. Atlas. Yes. She was all Atlas and oh my gosh. And I was like, Atlas ain't trying to find you.
I mean, that could be it.
Like, he did.
Atlas
So
had a
now here
whole
she
life
is.
outside her ass.
Yes, and you're like Atlas. Now it's the same thing with Larkin. Larkin was looking for something else. Larkin was like, "Oh, she could have if it wasn't for Earthseed." Earthseed, Larkin
also did have a very traumatic upbringing.
Yes, she did, and that's and
Lenny, your mic cut out.
yes, he was
Copping
always
fields
touching
on
her.
in church. Oh,
What you were saying, Steve?
Your mic is out.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I had it on mute. I said she did have a traumatic upbringing because the guy that was raising her was trying to molest her.
He
But
was.
I think it's also partially like how she wrote all her characters, though. And she tells us, right? She's like, I didn't discover it. It's just true. So I think she was, it's a commentary. All her characters are a commentary on like some people can only come so far. Like, yeah, she was born to this radical leader, but she grew up in the church. No one ever loved her. She found one person to love and she was like, okay, I'm good. And she couldn't quite, even though she like looked like her mom and she sounded like her mom and she kind of was intrigued by her mom, she couldn't quite come that far because that's how people are. People can't just people can only come so far.
Right. But
What do you mean by that, Steve? Come so far, like open up?
Well, yeah, like think of Lauren's whole goal throughout the entire book is to take people from like not woke to woke or Christian to woke. And like when you do that kind of work, that organizing work, some people get it and they're like, man, I've been like thirsty for this my whole life. Now the whole world makes sense. But some people are just like, yeah, that's great, but I still have this, I still have this comfortability. Like the character said, I still have this comfortability in going to church and going to Sunday school. And yeah, that has all these terrible effects, but like I can't bring myself out of it. And
Yeah,
that's
that was
how
that
some
conversation with
people are.
Dan she was having. It was that conversation with Dan. With Dan was really he was stuck on his belief system, and she was trying to teach him more. He just couldn't
Oh,
go anymore.
I
He
was
just wanted
like,
to
Dan,
leave.
who is Dan? Okay, yeah, the
That
little
was
boy.
that was Lenny asked earlier about emotional scenes. That to me was the emotional scene because I felt like I hate I didn't capture all the quotes she said at the moment, but she was dropping some real Earthsea shit on Dan, and to Steve's point, Dan just was like, "Yo,
But
I
because
don't need
Dan
that."
needed comfort.
Right.
Dan at that point, he had lost his parents, he had lost his sisters, and he needed comfort. And this lady was like, God has changed. You're like, okay, but what is that gonna do for how I feel right now? I mean, changing what? So, and to I guess for me, thinking about it in a way that is not emotional, it's like for me, okay, I can only go so far in math. It's not that much we're gonna do past that. I mean, I can talk all day, and we can sit up here and I can talk about how smart I am and all these other places, but past algebra 1, where are we going? Nowhere. So
Sine,
you're not gonna get
cosine.
any
What are you
more.
talking about?
People can only go so far.
MX B plus Y.
Just A plus
Ain't that a
B.
slope?
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. So people can only go so far, and that's my limit. But I really enjoyed, watching them go through those phases. But nah, Larkin annoyed me because you all usually get doing. I hated it. I hate the characters. I hate them. Lauren annoyed me. As a mom, I was like, girl, you just need a whipping. And you know, but I can say this, so y'all can go ahead and villainize me right now. Yeah, Lauren could have just when Ben Coley said, "Let's go to Hempstead, Holstead, and live in that big house on the ocean."
I knew you were
I'm
going
out.
to. I knew that was going to be something that
I'm
you was going to
gone.
highlight.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
So you'd have dropped everything that you live for, that you've been working on. If you were Lauren and Earthsea was your thing,
I would still
you would
work.
have abandoned that.
I believe in moderation.
No,
Everything
Teresa,
in
you wouldn't have been
moderation.
Lauren in that situation. You would have been Ben Coley in that situation. You'd have been like, "Yo, Lenny, let's go to let's go to Hempstead."
That's I mean, but I also thought about it from the perspective of she was pregnant, and I know how you feel when you're pregnant, and I know you want to nest and everything. The most important thing to
Would be
you,
more of a reason why you would have wanted to go to Halstead.
exactly,
And
because Jared is coming for the radicals. I would have been
that's
like,
probably another one of Larkin's rubs.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, I think I would have been a lot more strategic with Earthseed at that point. I would have said, okay, I got this baby to think about. Let's time to go underground. Let's start sending out I would have been talking about teachers at that point. It took Acorn to be invaded by the 7 maggots for them to start talking about, oh, well, you know what? I like the way they did this. Now they send out teachers. I need to send out teachers. You could have jumped past all of that, but I know it couldn't have been a book without it. But she could have jumped past all of that and been living in a house on a hill with the baby, and Ben Coley would still be like, she killed my dude.
Ben Coley was old. He was going.
I don't care, but she
die
killed him
But at the end
prematurely.
of the book, Teresa, where would they have been?
Where they are,
Well,
because she
what would
still
have
would have
been
sent out her.
happening? What would
She
have
would
been
have sent her
happening?
people,
What
and
would
she
have been
still would have had
happening?
her child.
I don't know. Would she? Because her people weren't going to leave. Her people were going to stay. She was going to leave.
They were going right, but they were going to go underground and be more strategic. They weren't going to be this one big target for Jared and the Crusaders.
They weren't talking about that. She was just going to leave.
No, but she should have. Once she realized what was going on, when Ben Coley gave her that offer, she should have said, "Let me think about this and see how it goes." But she was like, "Nope, not gonna hear it.
Yeah,
Not gonna hear it."
that was the part where I remember coming to the realization that this story has already happened, right? This is old stuff, and we're reading it now. And I was telling Lenny the whole, this is like The Walking Dead, like that whole conversation's been had, right? But to the point, I hated Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead because I felt like his character was so focused on him and always wanting to protect his family. I think Lauren that's where she's coming. She's the Rick Grimes of this story, and like Earthsea's got to take over every conversation. It's like every time she's in a dialogue with someone, she's trying to figure out a way to teach them about Earthsea, and that it's kind of compulsive in a way, and it to your point about her not making a good decision, like because she had done better by her family and Earthsea by going along with her husband.
You know what?
But not in a silent way, as the Crusaders wanted, in a very vocal way. Yes, I'm going. And I talk all the way there. You tell me what to do. Where's my room? Which side of the house is mine?
Yeah, she still could have had her show, but maybe not. I don't know. That's a good question, Steve. What would have happened? Where would they ended up?
She wouldn't be going to space.
She still didn't go to space.
She is.
No, she didn't go to space. She let them go and say, you know what, I'll come up there later or I'm going to die right here.
In my ashes.
Her in the ashes.
But what I will say about that, which was interesting, because when Parable of the Sower opens and they're talking about the stars and she's looking up there, never in a million years did I think that she was being literal. So I will go on record and say I didn't see that coming.
Me neither. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think they was gonna take the spaceship.
I really, because not only because it's a little bit contradictory too, simply because I was trying to have so many parallels. It was sometimes a stretch for me, because I was like, okay, so she did say in Parable of the Sower that a religion has to have some other level, somewhere else to go. So as in Christianity, it's heaven. And, so she was talking about that. So she said, we have to go to the stars. And I was thinking, okay, she couldn't be literal. I just thought it was figurative, but here we are. And we just watch these big space buses take people to somewhere. We don't even know where.
Think about this. Think about heaven as we know it, right?
I don't know it.
Well, as we know it, as it's been taught to us.
Streets of Gold.
Yes, the streets.
What part of heaven? Streets of Gold, the mansions.
Yeah, all of that.
Sending
right?
my lumber. I send lumber.
It's like day. The end all, and that's where you're going to spend the rest of the rest of eternity. It's like the proverbial glass ceiling. Did I say that correct? Proverbial glass ceiling. Huh? Tell me what it is, baby.
Proverbial.
Yeah, it's this.
I think so.
All right, I'm gonna say. You gonna say the word?
Proverbial
glass ceiling, right? And like, what if you like you remember how we were during the pandemic and you couldn't leave the house or your little area? Right. You're like, golly, like I want to go somewhere, right? In heaven, where do you go? You know what I mean? Is that really a place that you want to spend eternity?
I don't know. I just know that.
Dog, what Biggie say, dog? When I die, fuck it, I want to go to hell because I'm a piece of shit. It ain't hard to fucking tell.
And he said that out loud.
Dog, Biggie, what?
Okay,
man. I don't want to go to heaven with the goody goodies dressed in white. Fuck that. I like black Timbs and black hoodies. Gotta probably having you on some real strict shit. No sleeping all day. No getting my dick licked. Hanging with the goody goodies. Lounging in paradise. Fuck that shit. I want to tuck guns and shoot dice.
That's what's wrong with us. We got so much stuff in our heads that we don't need. That's just a lot.
Biggie's a lyricist.
That's a lot.
But if you think about it, though,
it's what you're talking about.
Like getting to heaven, like, is it something that I know? it might be imaginative or
No,
real.
this
I
is
don't
what
know.
it is.
But
This
like,
is
are you going to like
that's
stop
not the
having desires
point.
to
That's
want
not the
more?
point. That's not the point.
Tell me what the point
Because
is,
you
baby.
just got through talking about things being literal and whatever. So we're not taking any of that literal. It's the point of having a hope of something better. That's it. So that you don't, you have a focus, you have a goal. Just like in Earthseed, there's a focus and a goal. It's somewhere to reach. She said it herself. You can't have a religion without a goal to aspire to.
What's better for us?
Who is us?
You and I.
I don't know. What are you talking about?
All right, so let's talk about heaven, right?
Donovan, what you do? Sit up in your seat, Donovan.
No, for real though. Heaven. I think what's better if we all lived in good health, our children in good health. Hold on.
Yes,
And we
that's
pay
true.
off our mortgage.
Yes,
And
that's
we get
true.
and we get a new car every 3 years.
Okay.
That's
yes.
and we go on trips and we
That's why
meet
people that when you say you can make your heaven or hell on earth.
So when we leave here, like, and then we just go to this
But
place
life is not like that,
with a
Lenny.
gate.
Life is not like
No,
that.
no, listen to me.
No, I've listened, and
Okay.
life is not like that. I don't care how good it is. I don't care what we got going on. I don't care how happy we could be in this relationship.
We could be happier.
It is still something that's going to happen because that's life. Somebody's going to die. Somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's going to get an F on a report card. It's just
in heaven.
life.
You don't die, you don't get sick, and you don't get F's on your report card. Well, do you wear the same clothes?
I don't know because I've never been there before, but you're missing the point and you're being literal and you.
No, I'm just saying though. Like, is it? No, I'm trying to be literal.
I know
because
but
heaven is literal. Heaven,
no, it's not
streets
because
of gold and people singing
because
and milk and honey.
And it was also some of the other things that were
like,
on there
is he
too.
gonna take
So
some of
if
our
you are
desires
throwing
away?
everything that's good into something, just so you can say,
Are
this
the
is
women
how
gonna
good
have
it's going to
tattoos
be. It
and butt
could
lips?
be a state. It could be because that might be your heaven, just like in this book. When you go into these
But what if I
alternate,
want to see you in
can
heaven?
you hush? Can you listen?
Yes.
Because you about to not
Are
be
you getting
talking at
upset?
all. If you go into all these virtual reality bubbles, like Lynn's mother,
Metaverses.
they weren't metaverses.
Okay,
That's what we got going on right now.
They was mask or what were they called?
You put on the
screens?
mask.
Yeah, the
you
mask.
have on the mask.
Yeah.
But
the VR.
then there were even some other things that they talked about in a bubble or all of that. You could create these perfect worlds. That's why people were getting addicted to them. Because it was taking you away from your troubles and putting you into a state. That's what drugs do for people as well. So all that is a personification or whatever the word is for something to get you away from your troubles, because
augmented reality
is trouble for people. That's what, from the day you were born until the day you die, you're dealing with some type of trouble.
So what happens after you die?
That is the unknown, and that's up to whatever a person believes.
So what do you think heaven is?
Don't worry about what I think it is. It's not your business. It's whatever I have.
It's
what
not
I'm
my
doing.
business because you don't want to commit to it.
No, it's because
you don't want to
it's
commit
not
to your idea.
Because
come on, tell me your idea of what heaven is. What is your idea?
It's
of
not
heaven?
your business.
What
because whatever it is personal to me.
Does it involve me?
Nope. Not at all, because it wouldn't be heaven if it involved you.
Does it involve anybody in this house?
It might.
Harvey, what does your heaven look like, Harvey?
Dog, it's personal, dog.
Give me that. Hey, listen. If I gotta go to heaven and it's only like one place where everybody, it's a lot of people there, because you gotta think it's people from millions of years ago. It's funny looking people.
Everybody there.
Yeah, everybody there. They was there forever, right? So number one, I hope it ain't hot. Because it's all them people. And then I hope it don't stink. All them people, because you might go back in time where people where bathing wasn't a priority. How many?
144,000. 144,000.
That's the other religion. That's the other cult.
And it can't smell.
Yeah,
that's low.
Because that would be bad. And
so
did you not? I tried to get you to watch The Good Place with me, but you wouldn't. So now you got to figure it out on your own.
The Good Place. Yeah, the dude with the glasses and the white girl.
Yes. Cheaty.
We got Dante's Inferno. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, that was a scary book.
Well, I mean, the picture. You know what I mean? In history, the picture is shaming people's concept of hell.
Yeah.
I think if you look at like the papyrus of Ani, you see the judgment scene, and you see the heart being weighed by the feather of my eye, and the dog Anubis there. I mean, the concept of the afterlife and what happens next, it has changed. It's gotten more scarier over time. You know what I mean? So.
And you know what? I just want to be honest. It would have to, because look at what's happening to people over time. I mean, how hard is it to scare? Like when I was a little girl, my granddaddy just had to look at me. I stopped. Then my kids, you got to touch them, and they stop. The second kid, you got to touch them, you got to strangle them, you got to choke them. It's a whole bunch. So it needs to be a scarier thing. It's like you going to hell.
Wait.
Pull a gun up on them,
Wait.
Yes.
Wait. You're talking about.
That's a mama.
Hold on, y'all. My wife right now is saying that it has to be some level of fear.
100%.
Yes, but when I do fear,
no, not you. Not you.
Through the measurements of pain, you always want to give me this,
because
this psychology.
That's true. But what I'm saying,
you're not supposed to whoop your kids, or you
should want
respect through respect, because they want to respect.
Okay, so I'm going to look directly in the camera and say this,
you.
because he is trying to push a narrative that is not true. I never said that I do not believe in spankings or whippings or whatever we're calling them. What I am saying is I do and I have, but that's not the case.
And I said
that is not what I'm talking about.
Fear than not to respect me at all. I'll work on that other stuff, that respect, just for the sake of respect.
Okay.
And reverence later on.
But
they gonna respect me whether it's from fear or not. But I'm gonna get some respect. Now, say what you gonna say, baby?
It doesn't work.
You just said fear works!
Exclamation mark. What you're talking about. But that's not what I said. What I'm saying is that all society has to have a healthy
solo, dog. No disrespect. I go solo, dog.
amount of fear in their citizens, constituents, whatever, because some people do not just abide by the law because it's the law. There has to be some type of consequence that they know is going to come down, because you walk into Walmart, crab legs look good. I don't have $22 for the crab legs. I'm not going to steal them because, number one, I don't want to be embarrassed if I get caught. Number two, I don't want to go to jail if I get caught. Number three, I don't want to get my parents to beat me. There's consequences. So when we're talking about life and going through life, there are things that keep people balanced in their lives. There's so many times when people say, I ain't going to hell for that. Simply because you're balancing out the things that you've done in your life, and you're saying, I don't need that little bit to push me over to whether there is a hell or a heaven or not. Whatever it is, I'm not playing with it, because I'm not going to do that. And so I was just describing that as time has progressed, it's got to be a little bit more of a consequence
You
than
mean
it
like
has
checks and
been in
balances?
the past. Correct.
So
That's not
you
what I mean.
subscribe,
That's what I said.
you
So when we're
prescribe to like
talking,
the concept of the Christianity way of keeping the masses in check.
not necessarily the Christianity. There are other religions and other forms. I mean, shoot, the laws of the United States of America are based on things of that nature. If you break a law, there's a punishment, and the punishment is supposed to line up with the crime. It hasn't lined up for people of color because we are over penalized. But that's the concept of what we're talking about, because Harvey just said it has gotten scarier. And I was just saying it has to get scarier because people are becoming more and more reckless. You should have got it when I said it the first time.
Oh, yeah. I'm married.
Me too, but I got it.
Good. Because it's your idea. It's coming from your brain.
Say something.
Donovan, what does
What
heaven
up?
look like to you?
Oh man, there's lots of naked people. All lots of naked folks just
I'm
busting
telling your
things out.
mama.
Is it
I
like
mean,
an orgy?
definitely in lots of parts. But then there's other parts where you just eating breakfast. It's like a really big Atlanta without all the crime.
Without all the crime.
Donovan, is that boy on boy too? Or girl on
Say that
girl?
again?
Boy on boy? Boy girl?
Yes, it's everything. Whatever you like.
Whatever you can fit it in, and whatever is willing to get
Exactly.
it up.
You just do the shoulder tap, like, hey, what's up? And they just
Yeah, it's either
let's
yay
get
or
it
nay,
in.
but no aggression.
Oh
No
no,
aggression.
unless that's what you like, because different strokes.
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to be aggressive on, but
I'm clearly alone.
Come on now, baby. You know.
Baby hell.
You don't like that.
That's why you're not in my heaven.
Oh. All right. In my heaven,
mhm.
I am the man.
We know it's not real.
I'm gonna be much bigger
Mm.
and
Oh yeah,
much
that part.
You mean taller?
yeah,
Because I couldn't imagine you any bigger.
and loose.
Loose?
Did I meant to say loose?
I don't know what you meant to say.
Free spirit.
Oh, you were.
Oh, okay. Like that.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna go and take them girls with the tiger paws.
You said loose.
Yeah, because I'm yeah. I'm
I
gonna be
know a
free
couple.
with the tiger paws.
You do too. You can have them.
I don't want them
care.
now. I want to wait till I go to heaven.
I don't care. I'm just sticking with the loose.
I want to wait till I go to heaven, baby. Because right now I want to mess this up because I loves you. I loves you. Yeah, since your heaven ain't got nothing to do with me, I'm gonna be over there in my heaven chilling.
Tutti fruity.
Chilling.
Till death do us part.
Chilling. Chilling.
Loose booty.
Mm-mm.
You said
Ain't no loose booty.
Do that loose booty shit.
Loose booty.
Hey, with that being said, hold on. Let me do the transition. Okay, we're at the segment of the podcast where we rate the book. So, Teresa, while I'm looking at you, could you rate the book?
Sure.
1 through 10?
I am going to give Parable of the Talents a 8.
What happened to the other two?
They're not there, and I actually was going to say 7.5, but I just kicked back a half point because I enjoy Parable of the Sower so much. So she got a residual 0.5 from Parable of the Sower. 8.
Wow. Donovan, did you read this book twice, or did you read it back when you said you read it, or did you go at it again?
My bad. I'm sorry. I put myself on mute. I read it one time and then I went back to it a few times just to reference it, but I didn't read it a full second time.
Okay.
I read like a few chapters like a whole couple times, but not the whole book. But I think I'll give it an 8 as well. Um but that's because when I don't like a character, the whole book has to suffer. Um I think we could have went deeper into Marco's story. Like I kind of really want to know what turned him. I mean, I know he was a slave and a prostitute and all of that, but like what made him still cling to the church like that and then also betray his family? I don't know.
I think I know the answer to that.
Okay.
I think what made him cling to the church is because it gave him some sense of identity. That's all he knew.
He
His
wanted to be like
dad
his
was a
dad.
pastor, and it gave him some sense of worthiness.
I think a better question though, Donovan, is what made him cling to that church. But
Yeah.
if it hadn't
Because
been
it was
for
safe.
that, it would probably not be a story. I have to go back to that all the time. The things that make you the more upset, if you took it away, then you're like, would this have been a story?
Gotcha.
But yeah, because I look at it too and say he could have been a preacher anywhere. He didn't have to hurt his sister like that. But
He smacked it too.
And to your point,
yeah,
Lenny, I think everybody kind of in both of these stories are, but especially this one is kind of struggling with like an identity issue, like because nobody really gets to keep their original identity. Like everybody has to lose it in some way. Like we start calling Lauren Olamina throughout for the rest of the story. Like I forgot her name was Lauren for a little bit. Her daughter loses herself, and Marco loses himself. Like nobody gets to stay. Nobody gets to leave as themselves. I guess.
Unless they get killed by dogs or something.
mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or Raven
But
Gangs, like
Olamina,
the
I
other
mean,
one.
she stayed kind of true to her cause. And I think that was a little bit of her downfall. It was that she had her blinders on and she just wouldn't veer off for anything or
When you say
anybody.
downfall, you talking about Lauren?
hmm
What was her downfall?
Well, the downfall of her relationships with her brother and her sister, even though her brother was more of the antagonist, but had it not been for Earthseed, she might have been able, well, how she felt about Earthseed, she might have been able to see eye to eye with him and understand more that he needed to be in line with the Christian religion and that he needed that to connect with his father in a way that nothing else was going to be able to do. But she just rejected everything that was not her idea or in her sight.
Mm.
Yeah, but Teresa, I think Mark is still the person who chose to leave. I think old girl had space and Earthseed to live with Mark. I don't think Mark could tolerate that shit. Mark didn't want no
Oh,
parts of it.
100%. I just
You
feel
know what I
like
mean?
I mean, you're right, and that was the part of the story that had to be. But just if she had had just a little bit more of a give to her, and that was, I think, her problem with Ben Cole as well. She just would, she just
Mm-hmm.
didn't give much.
No, she didn't. She had that asada juice. She's asada.
Mm.
The
I
Asada
can
juice.
see that, and I
Mm.
did
I forgot about
not feel that at all. I
Mm.
might have given that a
mm.
3.
That a solid Shakur
Yes,
book?
indeed.
Mm.
You was
I
mad at
believe in
Chicago
a lot
book.
of give and take, and she was a lot of my way or no way. It's just funny is I maybe the book could have been from Lynn's point of view if we had another one, but Lynn was able to, even as a sharer, and maybe that helped that she was a sharer, but she came right in and she was able to see uh Lauren Olamina. What was her name?
Olamina.
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
oh yeah,
Olamina.
Olamina. She was able to see her. And she does. She said, "You like to tell people what to do." And that's true. She's been telling people what to do since the beginning of the first book.
Does she like it, or that's something that she has to do if she wants to promote and proselytize people into her belief system?
I think that's something that she has to do that, but you can turn that off. Ben Cole was her husband. There should have been some soft spot there for him. Marcos was her brother. There should have been some soft spot
It
there
was
for
some
him.
soft spot for him. She saved his life.
She did save his life, but it was still on her terms. Because remember, she didn't even let the people know what was going on, which I know she couldn't, but she then just had them sitting there for hours. She was just the type of person that was, I'm taking over. And sometimes you have to, but you got to know when to turn it off.
Yeah,
Do you turn it off?
Do I turn it off?
No.
You are a
whatever.
Okay. Because
you never turn it off.
I do.
Everything that you want to control, you control.
That is true. Everything that I want to control,
So
but I don't want to control everything.
So turning it off would be having to want to control something, but you turned it off and say, look, I'm going to pull back because of whatever reason. You don't pull back for whatever reason. You only pull back when you don't want to be involved.
No, I pull back when it's those times when it is time. Just like there are times when it needs to be done. There are times when there are things going on with you that you don't need me to beat you up about it. There are times when something is going on. Yes. And
so the times when I say don't beat me up about it, and then you
I don't
still
say
beat me up
don't,
about it,
but you don't.
You still feel the need to beat me up about it?
I mean, it depends if it's really a valid
So when I say
request.
don't beat me up, I want to hear that.
Is it a valid?
I want to hear that shit right now.
Is it a valid request?
And it falls on deaf ears.
I don't know.
You still feel the need
Ask
to
your
beat
peers.
me up?
Is it a valid request or is it just fake? I mean, sometimes you just be crying wolf.
Girl, the world is watching right now. I would say something very ugly.
Okay. Well, me
probably
too, but I'm being
watch
nice.
This. And those 3 people that's watching this, please go to the link below that's on the YouTube and subscribe to Audible and also buy the book on Amazon. All right, so I'm going to rate the book.
Go ahead.
I really enjoyed the book.
All right.
And there's very few times that I read a book that I really, really was satisfied with the ending. Like, I was very satisfied with the ending.
Okay.
So much I could roll over and go to sleep. So, with that being said, I give the book a 9. And the other 1 goes to, because it was so damn long. Damn. It seemed like the book kept going and kept going, but it was always action.
Kept going and won't get
it was
now.
always something going.
Damn, get there, please.
Yeah, but God damn.
Right.
Yeah.
It was rough.
She could have cut some of this action out and put another book in it. It could have been, 2 books with 225 pages.
That'd have been dope.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, but I mean, it could have. I think she's a very, very excellent writer. And I'm about to say something that's going to offend people. But this is in the mind of Lennon. And when you walk into my mind, you're going to be very entertained.
You think?
But it's influenced by a lot of observations.
My right eye is twitching.
Okay. I'm going to talk about women.
Too much sodium? What's going on, Teresa? You having a stroke?
I don't know. I mean, he said he's noticing that he's about to offend people, which is really scary for me because half the time
maybe
he
I'm
doesn't.
not going to offend you.
That's a breakthrough, though, Teresa.
This too.
That's a breakthrough.
Oh my God.
This is a Lennyism. Listen, one thing I notice about women and black women, and history tells us about black women in the past, like Queen Nzinka, Queen Amina of Azara. There was queens who ran the whole country. So black women can run things, right? with that being said, I think women are wired to multitask, to have a bunch of children running around where they don't hurt themselves and still cook and still gossip on the phone and do things. Whereas men, we can only kind of do one, maybe two things at a time
Oh, okay, you
for the
learned this.
most
Oh,
part.
you're just showing your observations of what you've learned at home. Okay, I'm good.
Yes, baby. You taught me this. So, with that being said, the author, if you Google Octavia Butler, and you can see how she was able to tunnel her vision and her focus into writing books and her imagination. And when you tunnel all that potential into one small tube, you'll be amazed of the type of
This dude,
force that can come out the other end.
this dude here, this dude here.
And that force creates these amazing, remarkable stories.
Listen,
Unmatched. Like you heard the story of Kendra about the girl who went back in time. She had to save
yeah, I was
this
watching
white
that
man
one.
who eventually raped her grandmother, and if she don't save him, she wouldn't exist. You know, it's stories like that. This black woman, she had no distractions. She didn't have to worry about any men beating down her door trying to give her a baby or trying to do anything with her.
It's the shade. The shade.
And I think because of that,
Rooms, but the horror.
she
Of the
was
shade.
the recipient of the MacArthur Genius Award. She won the Nebula Award multiple times. She won the Hugo Award. She for the best novel. She's been the New York Times bestseller. She is in your history books the #1 sci-fi writer, and just so happens she's a black woman.
What
So-
history book?
Huh?
What history book?
In the future, baby. In the future. Octavia Butler. Look her up.
She's awesome.
She's very awesome.
Very awesome.
Very awesome.
Gone too
Lennon
soon.
is Lennon is not
I'm awesome.
very awesome.
And
very,
listen, so that's why she
it's
gets a
bigly.
9 instead of a 10. So, you know, that's just my take. Harvey, you chose the book. You go last. You give us your review on the book.
I'm gonna get a book a 9 out of 10. I just didn't like it. It just was it wasn't as exciting.
You gave a book a 9 that you,
You
don't
didn't like the book, Harvey?
Listen, I didn't like it. I
But
didn't
then
like
how did
it
it get a 9?
because I respected it.
Oh, okay, so we giving out
Straight
numbers
up.
on respect now.
Nah, straight up. I had to put some respect on this book. It's a dope book. I mean, it's a
Okay.
dope. It's long, but it's well thought out. Even though it's other stories that could be told. It definitely set the tone for The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is huge. It stole the whole thing. So I mean, her influence is definitely recognized. And I was wondering, Teresa, when you were saying that you could predict the ending, you know, sometimes we see stuff. So maybe we've seen this story played out somewhere else because the influence that Octavia Butler's had on other writers and other screenwriters, whatever. So
Oh,
that's
well,
why
I didn't see the starships because again, I didn't think that was literal. It was just those relationships things that I could see.
I'm wondering because I'm wondering now when I got introduced to critical race theory, was Octavia Butler part of the conversation? Because in critical race theory, they do these counter narratives and these storytellings and fiction stuff. Matter of fact, they got one called Faces at the Bottom of the Well. Derek Bell, this is the precursor, the #1 critical race theory book. They got this story called The Space Traders, where they make a bargain between these aliens, whether or not they're going to send black people off for all these wonderful items. And so
Oh, that
all
was a
this
Cosmic
stuff
Slop.
Cosmic Slop, yeah, exactly. It's they did exactly. Cosmic Slop is the Space Traders, exactly. It's what George Clinton did. The same thing. So yeah, so but to the point, it's like that's Octavia Butler stuff. Like now, I'm seeing like all these places where she may have influenced things, and so that's why, I don't like Jay-Z, but he's a dope rapper. So, that's why this book gets a 9, you know what I'm saying, in my perspective. Because
Okay.
it just took too long, and it was just weird, and I'm glad I listened to it versus reading it. However, I can see the value of reading it versus listening to it, if that makes sense. This is definitely something that would not hurt to put eyes on, but it's great to listen to because it doesn't. It's frustrating, but it doesn't just, like if I would have quit, I wouldn't have known what happened, right?
Right.
Obviously. So anyway, it's a 9 out of 10. I love Earthseed. To Lenny's point earlier, Earthseed is very real. I think it has a lot of practicality, and there was a lot of moments where I was like, yeah, I needed to hear that. That was good. And so yeah, I'm happy to have explored the text. I don't know if I can do another one though, but maybe we'll see.
Well, I guess that concludes the podcast. Maybe make sure you click subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to the link at the bottom of the YouTube channel. Make sure that you get your subscription to Audible. Purchase the book if you really like the book off our link at the bottom of the YouTube channel. Make sure you tell your friends about the podcast and rejoin us for the next one. And our next book is The Pick is on Me.
I don't know. Is it your turn?
Yeah, heart. So stop. Jonathan picked Parable of the Sower. You picked it ends with us.
Harvey did. Yep.
And Harvey picked this one.
It is on you.
The pick is on me.
Here we go.
Exactly. Is right.
I know you got some books on the board, Lenny. What you got?
All right. I want to bring a special guest on to the podcast for our next recording. And I told him that I would let him pick it. And he hadn't picked the book yet. Let me see, can I get him on the phone? Oh, man. I see you, Harvey.
Chicka. I mean, you could just cut him in through the magic of editing.
The magic.
All right.
So, Donovan, I'm on vacation. Could you get off my line?
Hey, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. God bless. Good night.
Good night.